Now, as I said at the top of the show, we're going to talk about House Bill 704 today. The bill was co-sponsored by 3 Republican legislators, Representative Chris Malone of Wake County, Representatives Bill Broadley and John Bradford, both of Mecklenburg County. We're picturing them on the screen right now. We're picturing them because we invited all 3 legislators to appear on the show and talk about why they sponsored the bill, but unfortunately all 3 declined, citing schedule conflicts. We actually asked for statements on why they believe the bill is important so I could share those with you too, but those weren't provided either. But we'd rather have the sponsors on to talk about it, and we will share more information about the bill, but we felt the issue was important enough to proceed with a show about it, and we have 2 outstanding guests to talk about it. They are Representative Rosa Gill. Representative Gill is in her 4th term in the North Carolina House. She is serving here out of Wake County. She is an educator by her profession, was a 23-year teacher, actually taught, we talked earlier, taught math at my daughter's high school, Enloe High School here in Raleigh. You also serve on the K-12 committee in the House. And next to Representative Gill is Senator Floyd B. McKissick, Jr. Senator McKissick is in his 6th term as a North Carolina senator, representing Durham and Granville counties. You serve as the senior Democratic leader in the Senate. And you're also an attorney by trade, graduate of Duke University Law School.
Thank you.
So thanks for being here, both of you. I'm going to start, I'm just going to get both of your reactions. Representative Gill, the bill started in the House. You're a House member. You've expressed some concerns about, well, this is a study, but the idea, the notion behind it, which is to break up large school districts in North Carolina. What are your concerns?
Well, my first concern is the resources. You know, if we break up school districts, then we'll have small areas where those who have will have the resources necessary for their kids to be well, to meet their potential, and those that do not have will suffer. And that appears to mean like it's going back to separate and unequal. So that's my greatest concern. How do you divide the resources that are allocated to the county? That's going to be the biggest question. The other one is, how do you determine in addition to the dollars, the allocation of resources and the teachers in these smaller districts? You know,
right.
So there are lots of concerns, and if this is a study, I hope that we will be able to answer most of those.
Well, your comment about the resources is important. We talk about school finance a lot on Education Matters, and we talked about equity. And as a matter of fact, I've looked into it. I mean, North Carolina actually ranks fairly high nationally in terms of equity across the state, and one of the reasons is because of larger school districts. So in a county, you represent Wake County, it's a big county. There's poverty here, there are areas that are poor, there are areas that are more affluent, but the schools are supported, you know, equitably, and that's one of the things that I guess what you're getting at is that if you have little pockets, maybe the small town that has money is going to have a much better school system than a town just 20 minutes away.
Right.
Yeah. Senator McKissick, your thoughts as a senator and just about this, sort of responding to what Representative Gill said about any concerns you have.
Well, I mean, resource allocations is part of the issue, but I think another significant part of the issue is the potential for us to resegregate, racially resegregate our schools in this state. I mean, back in 1960, you had somewhere about 167 local units, or the boards of education, and there were 45 mergers that occurred in our state, including Durham City and Durham County Public Schools, Raleigh City and Wake County Public Schools, High Point, Greensboro and Guilford County, but it allowed for racial integration. Right. And I think that's very, very, very important. I would hate to see us go back to a time where we had predominantly white or predominantly black school systems, as we did in Durham, right. As a result of us going back, looking at some better way potentially to manage our schools. I mean, even though Wake County today is one of the 15th largest school districts in the United States, it's gotten accolades for its management. It's gotten accolades for the magnet schools. It's gotten accolades and recognition due to the, the type of decreases that we've seen between racial disparities in student performance.
Right.
We've seen a decrease in the number of people dropping out of school. We've seen an increase in the number of kids graduating from schools.
Right.
Why would we want to turn our back on what has been a successful system and a successful program that's really well served our state? And we look at what we've done in North Carolina as a national model in terms of merging systems to achieve racial balance and equality, as well as equal access to educational opportunities, which gets back to the resource allocation issue.
And the mergers that you're talking about, I mean, Representative Gill, you know this. I mean, the ones that Senator McKissick just mentioned, those were primarily court-ordered or legislatively mandated specifically because of segregation. And we're gonna have a great guest on the second half who was involved in some of that work. But that's a fair concern, right?
Yes, it is. All we have to do is look at the counties in which we have more than one school district and how they're faring, and make a comparison. And that should give us an idea of what can happen if we divide the larger counties. Take the Asheville schools and the Buncombe County schools, and then you go to the Halifax schools and the different school districts that are there. We really need to think very, very carefully before we start dividing up school districts in order to accommodate a few.
Senator, last comment from you. Are you concerned about the elimination of things like these diversity policies and also the rise of sort of school choice, private school vouchers, which we'll get into that a little bit with Dr. Floyd. Overall, is it a bad trend for public education?
I think it's a terrible trend. I think we really need to do all that we can to double down and invest in our quality public schools here in this state. Over the years, there's been an incremental movement to destabilize them through increasing the number of charter schools. Charter schools can be good.
Right.
Charter schools can be models for academic innovation, but the data that's come in nationally shows that only 15% of the kids that go to charter schools do better, 25% do about the same, and 60% perform worse. And there's also been a tendency to move toward opportunity scholarships to send kids to private schools. We need to double down on our traditional public schools to make sure they have the access, the resources that they need, so that all of our students have an opportunity to achieve the type of education they deserve, that our state constitution provides for, and so they have the potential to get the jobs of tomorrow.
Well, thank you for that excellent way to close. We appreciate your comments and your work in the Senate. Representative Gill, thank you for being here. Before we go to break, see if you can answer this question. Wake County is the largest school district in the state, serving 159,000 students. What is the average size of a school district in North Carolina?